Hello and welcome to the rMetroidvania podcast. I'm Professor Q.
And this is called Wrath from the rMetroidvania subreddit and Discord.
This is Master. I'm also from there.
And today we're going to be playing La-Mulana 2. So obviously the goal here is to get far enough in the game that I've spoiled the ending for Master within the next hour and a half.
Sounds like a plan.
I'm sure you'll do great.
Salmace, do you see Salmace's comments? He's saying no.
So I'm not starting at the very beginning because the very beginning of this game has a lot of spoilers for the first game.
So it's important that we don't spoil that for anybody who hasn't played the first game.
Right. So this is just like the very first area. There shouldn't be too much in here.
You just killed Pikachu.
Yep. Just.
I can't remember. Can you grab ladders in midair in this game? I think that was one of the things that changed. Yes, okay. So in the original La-Mulana, that was like one of the mechanics is you couldn't climb a ladder unless it was on the ground.
Yeah. And now there's like better air control, like you can like change direction in midair.
Yeah, it's a common change that they make.
You still have to be like not terrible at platforming though.
Yeah.
But it gives you a little bit of wiggle room.
I want to say the whip's a little bit longer too.
It might be. It definitely makes a bigger whip sound. Or a more, I don't know what the word is. Did you already get the thing that lets you read that, or do you start with that in this game?
You buy it in the shop, but I don't think they let you out of the first area until you bought it.
Mm. So why did we pick La-Mulana this week besides trolling Master?
It's mostly just like it's a good example of a lot of things. We talk about the original one a lot, and I haven't actually played through this game.
These characters that I forget.
Yeah,
you talk to them.
Like they definitely have upgraded the like graphics in this game. Like the first one didn't have those big portraits like that.
Yep, this one has a ton of portraits. They're kind of cool.
So I think you could just walk across spikes.
Oh yeah.
That's true. That was actually the reason. So Melphis Belmont says that we talk about La-Mulana so much, so it's a good idea to show what it is, in case people don't know what it is. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. You know, the sign down there literally told you not to go there.
Oh, you think I'm reading the signs right now?
See, this is why you La-Mulana.
I'm not here to show off how good the game is. Jeez.
So, who should start? Should we talk about what we like about, or what Master and I like about La-Mulana first, or should we talk about what you dislike about La-Mulana first? Or should we just go into a completely different topic and come back to La-Mulana later if it's relevant?
I think it would make... I guess I can talk about what I dislike about La-Mulana, although I have done that a lot of times. It's mostly that there's a bunch of things in the game that you can't really know. Like, so there's a few things where the progression is based on something that there's no way that you could possibly know without just like doing it repeatedly and just like kind of randomly
trial and error type thing. So Melphis Belmont says we should start with the likes. So do you want to start, Master, or should I start?
You wrote the review, so I feel like you can put your thoughts into words.
I should totally open my review right now, and I probably should have had that ready beforehand. Well, I think the first thing I like is how you kind of have to figure things out through trial and error. And no, I'm just kidding. No, it's just there isn't any game like this, and I know that that's a bad reason, but sometimes in order to have a game feel like it's an adventure, it needs to have unfair aspects to it. It's part of the same reason why I like Rain World. It provides an experience that is genuine because there is actual danger, and in real life, I'm not saying this because I like it because it's realistic, but like in a situation where you are diving into these ruins, you may have to just poke things with a stick until you figure things out. Like, it feels like a real adventure, I guess is the best way I can describe that. And I'll see if I can articulate that a little bit better as the night goes on. But what did you want to say, Master?
I mean, I agree with what you said. Don't have much to add to it. I mean, yeah, it's got that exploration. In a lot of Metroidvanias, you don't necessarily feel like you're in danger. But then in La-Mulana, you're like, oh no, is that a trap that's gonna kill me? I'm scared. And you don't know what stuff is doing all the time, and yeah, you gotta figure things out. And sometimes that means dying, but that's okay.
And one thing,
this reminds me of another game where people die a lot.
One thing I find interesting about La-Mulana is it pulls it off without being very punishing. Like, as long as you're diligent about tagging your save points often, getting killed is either predictable enough that you can set yourself up in a situation where you won't have much loss when you die. Like, for instance, if you're losing HP, you can go back and heal. But also there's there's enough checkpoints, and it's easy enough to get back to checkpoints that even when the game kind of sometimes randomly just kills you with a trap, it's not such a setback that it's incredibly frustrating like some games can be. And from that design standpoint, another thing it does is that because this game has such a huge puzzle focus, and you have to kind of think of the entire game's world by the end of the game, it has a very generous teleportation system, which makes it really easy to... I like how he's just going to go for it.
That was a really good time for me to teleport.
This game makes you think about your actions, because if you're paying attention and not just doing things, it's extremely obvious you're going to kill yourself on a rock, but then you do it anyways and you die.
Every once in a while, it will kill you unfairly.
Yeah.
Also, you never tagged.
Yeah, like I will not say that was an unfair death. I was not paying attention. I'm kind of listening to you guys. This is probably a very bad game for me to stream while we're podcasting, but whatever.
I will not lie. There are traps in this game that you're going to get caught by them, and there is no telegraphing.
La-Mulana 2 has more death traps than 1, I think.
It does, and I think that they actually delayed the game so they could add more, I think, is what they said in one of the one of their update posts before this game came out.
There's really only one trap in particular I remember and really disliked.
There's a trap in this game. We're probably not going to see it tonight, but I think I literally jumped across it and fell for it like over 33 times.
Okay.
And I have no idea what's wrong with me.
There was a small platform, and then there's like a roof above the platform, and if you jump onto the small platform, you just instantly die. And you're supposed to like go under it.
And it's funny that some of the things that I kind of brute force, I later found out had a telegraph to it. Like sometimes I'll miss the clue, and then I find out about the clue later, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess that seems fair.
You must be observant all the time.
Yeah.
Like in La-Mulana 1, maybe you have to be more observant than in this game. There were sometimes background things which were like you were required to have seen the thing in the background to know what to do. I don't really remember that in this game. I didn't get through this game, so.
Yeah, this game doesn't do it as much. La-Mulana 1, you kind of have to pay attention to what the names of each room is in order to solve some... Not necessarily solve a puzzle, but to find another room. I guess it was a puzzle or riddle. Like, the solutions to the riddles are often done through your actions rather than, you answer the riddle type thing. So I think an important aspect to that is, since this is a Japanese game and it's localized, the language that the game tells you its hints is very important. I felt that it did a good enough job in the original game.
They definitely did a good job. I mean, if you just think about how bad the localization is in so many different games,
so
like the fact that they were able to convey like all the riddles at all, pretty much. I mean, yeah, it's impressive.
Funny enough, a game I would compare this to is Simon's Quest. I feel like Simon's Quest has more relationship to this game than it does the Igavania games. More similarities. Except this game, the combat's pretty good. I'm not going to say it's great, but, it's got some good bosses and stuff. I put it up in the higher quality of combat.
I love the shell horn sound effect in this game.
The bleep bleep, or which one are you talking about?
When you solve something, it makes a noise. Like, usually telling you that something has happened somewhere else.
The Zelda sound, the doo 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 doo, but its version of it.
Yeah, but it's just like this. It's special.
I don't know if Cauldroth has the Holy Grail yet, but that's a major item when it comes to...
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so you can just, now that you've made all this progress, you can just jump back to your save point, I think, from anywhere.
Yeah, I guess I could just do that now.
Yeah, you kind of learn to do that a lot in this game. See, and then you saved, and now you don't have any chance of losing anything. You don't even have to save. I think as soon as you tag that thing, it's a checkpoint or a continue point. Although I usually save anyway because I'm paranoid. I grew up with...
is thinking, wow, there's so many features in this game that I didn't notice but enjoy. Maybe by the end he'll come to like La-Mulana. You never know.
Maybe they fixed a lot of the issues that I had with it in the second one.
No, I mean...
So I think the main thing is I have a pretty strong aversion to a game that it feels like it's wasting my time. And a lot of times La-Mulana feels like it's wasting my time.
La-Mulana allows you to waste your own time.
You did a thing. And now you have to fight Radagast.
I remember. I don't like this guy.
This is like the pursuer of this game.
Yeah. Oh, at least I saved before.
And the main character in this game confuses me. She's supposed to be the daughter of the main character from the first game, but that would mean that he had to have had her when he was 11, based on the ages they give in the manual, which is really confusing.
Time doesn't work the same in La-Mulana world.
They actually said that as an excuse, but I'm like, but why even make it his daughter at all? Why can't she just be some other archaeologist? But I don't know. You always have to have that lineage thing going on.
It doesn't really matter in this game. So
Anyway,
I assume it doesn't.
As far as comparing between the first game and this game, I like the first game more. I think the appeal of the game is kind of uncovering the game's lore and the puzzles and the riddles and stuff. From a gameplay perspective, though, this does make some changes that are more friendly to newer players. For instance, the jumping alone, I think, is a huge change for a lot of people. I don't think that actually accomplished anything besides almost killing you.
It probably like clears something on the right side of the screen there. Because it falls down from above, so maybe there was a block blocking the way to the right.
Makes sense. I believe that's what happened.
But as far as this game wasting your time, I'm not going to say that it doesn't have points that most players are likely going to get stuck at. Yeah, like if you go based off of how old she is, he had to have been, I think she's 20 or 21 even, so yeah, he had to have been 10. So I mean, as far as going based off of the lore and plot, this game was clearly planned from the first game, at least since the first game's remake, because you can clearly see the events of this game starting in the first game's ending. But at the same time, it kind of lost its magic the second time around for me. But that's just my own personal feeling on it. They also... we'll talk about those eyeballs in just a second here, but they also kind of leaned on specific puzzle solutions a lot in this game. That the first La-Mulana had a little bit more variety, which could arguably be a bad thing in the sense that more variety means more likelihood that you're going to become confused. So what do we think about the eyeballs that punish you for whacking walls randomly?
Well, that's actually kind of a good thing, because then you know when you're in a certain area, oh, I shouldn't just be whacking all the walls and checking every single wall mindlessly. I mean, I know Cauldreth is not a fan of wall checking.
It's an anti-brute force measure. Except I did it anyway all the time when I played this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the story in this game feels like more of an excuse just to play more La-Mulana, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is I'm okay with that, because there isn't any other games like La-Mulana. And Salme says that you whack every wall in every Metroidvania, and that's true. And if you go into this game doing that, you're probably going to get zapped a lot.
Yeah. Like, the overarching lore in La-Mulana 1 is, I do enjoy it. But, like, I'm not playing La-Mulana for the story. I mean, of course, there's the sense of discovery and exploration. That's different from, like, the story of the game.
Well, let me put it this way. There's a build-up and payoff in La-Mulana 1 that makes the ending extremely satisfying. This game, it feels like a Disney sequel in the sense that they kind of did the same build-up and the same payoff, and it just doesn't have the same effect when you do it twice. It's like the same joke twice.
Yeah, except in this case, it's like you're doing a drug and then you do the drug again.
La-Mulana is like drugs. You heard it here first, folks. So yeah, even this first area is like a puzzle box. Eventually, I think that this is the part that gets really overwhelming for some people, is that the entire game becomes part of the puzzle box. Not to spoil things, but it's less so in La-Mulana 2 as it is in La-Mulana 1, but I think that this game's a lot more... I think it's more likely that you would be able to complete this game without a guide than the first game, which you could consider a pro or con, depending on what you're looking for.
You know, I completed 1, I haven't completed 2 yet, so...
So why haven't you gone through this game yet, Master?
Well, You know when you're playing a game and you're enjoying it, but then you get to a point where you haven't played it for a little while, and then you're thinking about restarting it, but it's too soon to restart because you remember too much, but also you don't remember enough to actually get anywhere, since this game kind of requires you to remember things.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That's like me in the Witcher series.
Like, you can get away with it with an open world game, because they just have a million map markers everywhere, and also, you know...
Oh, in my case...
Like, I don't restart every game that I come back to.
In my case,
but I
didn't
would
have a choice.
restart La-Mulana too.
My computer crashed the first time I played it, and so I lost my save file. And then I started playing it again, and my hard drive failed. So I lost my save file. And now they have cloud saving, so maybe I should start it again and not have to worry about losing it.
I played a good, like, at least dozen, maybe 15 hours of Witcher 3, and then I was like, well, I'm done with this game. It's not bad. Not my favorite.
So my computer has never failed except when I'm playing The Witcher. I don't know. It's like a cursed game for me. Pure coincidence, I'm sure.
The Witcher is mildly demanding.
The original Witcher? Probably not.
Oh, talking about Witcher 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear it's terribly optimized. maybe it's just so unoptimized it doesn't run.
Do we want to talk about the weight mechanic in La-Mulana?
So I think that that's just like the eyeballs in the sense that it's supposed to be a anti-brute force measure. Now, I think there is an interesting debate on whether or not it's effective at that, because it does essentially mean that if you are attempting to brute force it, or if you are making educated guesses, there is a chance that you'll have to grind for money to get more weights.
Yeah, like there was a place up here that I wasn't able to access because I ran out of weights. And I don't think I've been just like spamming them all over the place.
I mean, I feel like if you're exploring around and breaking bases and doing your thing, as long as the area doesn't repeatedly require you to use tons of weights, you're going to have an excess of them. But then, I guess at least in La-Mulana 1, there were a few areas where, you know, if you travel too far away from the screen, you need the weight to get through the door again. If you're going back and forth a lot, you kind of need weights.
There are
or
also
you need to teleport somewhere.
There are also random drops, so you might just wind up not getting enough.
I know I had to... I don't know if I grinded for weights, but I know I had weight issues in both games. But I also have a tendency... I mean, anybody who's watched me play or stream games blind, I have a tendency to brute force things just naturally. So it's a mechanic that punishes me specifically, but I understand why the mechanic is there. I don't hate it. I don't hate the mechanic.
It's interesting because you have a game where, you know, the riddles can be hard and people will definitely try to brute force it because they're confused. But then the game also punishes you for trying to brute force it. So people get frustrated because they aren't able to brute force the solution. Like, not only is it just hard to figure out the riddle or even know what to do in the first place or where to go, but then you have these other mechanics that further punish you. I feel like that's one of the reasons why people get so frustrated with the game.
Yeah, like the game has multiple frustration aspects to it. So like it's a difficult game mechanically and also like puzzle wise and such like that. So it kind of like feeds on itself.
Right. And there's a lot of like micro punishment, you could maybe call it. But, you know, the game itself, you have save points everywhere, you can teleport to them at any time. like that part of the game is like that's what makes the other punishing parts of the game acceptable, I think.
I think you can just run from this guy.
Like if you had to do something tedious to get back to what you were doing, then it would make the game worse. But because it's so easy to just save and access other parts of the map, it kind of balances out.
Yeah, I think that one of the key features that La-Mulana has that makes it possible for it to be a game that isn't too much frustration if you understand how the mechanics work is the fact that you can just jump anywhere at any time and save at any time as a result.
Means you're usually doing things step by step and you're figuring out the next step, and then executing it and then saving. Unless there's just like a new area to explore. I mentioned how I don't like when enemies shoot projectiles directly at you in games.
Yeah, it's the most logical thing for them to do.
I mean, yeah, in a lot of games do it, but then just in a platformer, sometimes it's just hard to... Like, it makes dodging not feel natural.
Sometimes. I understand what you're saying. It is probably the highest risk choice for making your combat frustrating.
I mean, here he can just do this, and it's easy because the man always shoots at him.
Yeah, La-Mulana definitely has one of those combat systems where AI exploitation is the optimal optimal way of doing things.
Yeah, like actually trying to use the whip on them makes them just fly all over the place. So like the way that would actually be more fun to fight them is more frustrating.
You should save.
I was gonna say, get out of there. I forgot that this game doesn't heal you at save points, but I kind of remember that.
Yeah, the healing system is interesting.
Yeah,
Apparently,
there you go. You go back to the village of departure and you go hang out in the hot spring. This is totally in-game spoilers right here, though. You don't know that he gets a castle.
Who gets a castle? We don't know anything. Nothing's happening right now.
It's actually more a joke than anything. I actually don't mind exploiting boss patterns as long as it's not like completely messed up.
Yeah, I think one of the issues I had playing the original one is that I didn't use the like ranged attacks as much as I should.
Yeah, it definitely was classic.
I was still in my like, oh no, I can't, my Mega Elixir problem where I have to save up all my shurikens just in case.
There's definitely a classic Vania flavor there in the sense that you kind of need to use your sub-weapons.
that is a good comparison.
Like the way like a lot of the enemies are like fly, like a lot of the bosses fly around in the first game, and so they're extremely hard to hit with the whip because it was so short range and you had so little air control.
Hey, welcome Retrovania.
Hello.
Have you beat La-Mulana 2, Salmes? La-Mulana 2 has some in-game cheats, is what I'm going to call them. Some things that make it a lot easier. Specific bosses and things. Which may or may not have contributed to my feeling that that I felt that La-Mulana 1 was stronger.
Like that was a thing that Mesa Gallius did a bunch, where like you'd have to type something on your keyboard and then something would happen.
Oh,
That's fun.
Oop. Forgot they had all these 3D effects. So I watched a speed run of this game, and if you change her, you get like skins from I think it was the Kickstarter reward. Apparently, you can use it to clip through walls, though, so they just kind of skip into this area. Oh, I don't remember what you do.
Now I'm starting to think I should have read some things.
I think you need to use an item to summon the boss, like you do in La-Mulana 1, or just whack that. That works too. There you go. There's the boss summoning thing.
Right.
Run back and save every time you make progress.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, this game is unfair, but it's also not punishing.
It's punishing, but it's not punishing where it matters. Where it is, but it isn't, but it is.
Right. It strikes a balance, in my opinion.
I like this kind of game, and unfortunately this kind of game is this game.
Right. There's literally nothing else like La-Mulana. You can have things that have similar flavors, like I said, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest.
I should make a game called Ma-Mulana.
Ma-Mulana. I wonder if you can get away with that. I know that recently there was a, when I say recently, like within the past 3 years, there was a game that had birds, and it was like Metroid or something like that, and that got pulled, and I don't know if it was because of the name. La-Mulana. That sounds like a Guacamelee crossover.
Hey, maybe Coldrith will like this game so much that he'll want to make a spiritual successor. You never know.
Like, I'd like to make a game that's like La-Mulana, but good.
Hey, let's do it.
Salome is making me say dirty things because I don't understand Spanish. That's okay. One of the game titles of one of the games I reviewed apparently is a swear word in Portuguese.
Oh no. I like that spikes don't just instantly kill you, because I feel like that could have been a thing that this game... It seems like something this game would do, but these spikes do not instantly kill you.
Yeah,
that's good.
I think that the traps that don't instantly kill you are weaker in this one. Like, I could have sworn the eye lasers did way more damage in the first game.
I don't think they did. Maybe a little bit more. Not that much more. Maybe it was more like a quarter health.
So how would you describe the difficulty of the first game, Master? How would you rate it? High difficulty, medium difficulty, low difficulty?
I mean, I definitely say La-Mulana's high difficulty.
Or brutal difficulty, if you want to go a little higher?
You know, I'm just gonna say it's high difficulty.
You can try teleporting out of there. I don't remember if that's what you can do.
Probably just need to throw shurikens or something.
Brutal difficulty is not on my grading criteria.
Oh, okay. So high, medium, low. I have a brutal difficulty because there are games that have given me heart problems.
How's Eternal Return going?
Oh my gosh. There's a combination of have you watched me play that at all, like this past
No.
week? Okay. I don't think you can actually break it with that.
Alright, so yeah, I'm gonna try to teleport out. Oh, wrong button. Yeah, I guess that works.
Cool.
It does feel a bit like cheating, though.
So Eternal Return, it's punishing. And I think that that's the main thing that makes it difficult. You can kind of spam your way through a lot of bosses if you happen to have enough hit points. And there are a lot of situations where it really feels like you couldn't avoid the damage because the controls are very sluggish and slow. But I think my biggest gripe, and it looks like you can't actually do anything with this yet. You see that statue with the red eye there? I think that that's part of the solution.
Oh.
I do think it's interesting when games will kind of mess with your expectations and that you feel like you're cheating the game when you accomplish a solution.
That's always
I know
fun.
a lot of people feel that when they play Baba Is You, for example.
I'm addicted to sequence breaking for that reason. On Eternal Return, though, the biggest issue I have with the clunky controls is not necessarily that they're clunky, because I can get used to that. It's that sometimes I push the button and it doesn't seem to work, and I can't... Usually when that happens, it's because I'm doing something wrong, like I'm using the jump while the character is in a specific animation, and the animation's what's causing it. If I pay attention, I can usually tell, but the game doesn't seem to convey exactly what's stopping the button from working. So it feels like it's not functioning correctly. But it could be that I just need to spend more time with it to recognize that what's causing that. But I'm in a position where I may not make the review on Monday because of it. I may have to go with one of my backup reviews. Silver, it's like, it's okay to say it's bad. The thing is I don't want to say it's bad because there are aspects of it that I really like. But if I actually manage to complete it, it probably will get like a 2.5. But I may change my mind if I actually manage to finish it. What would you give it, Salmace? This is one of Salmace's favorite games, Eternal Return. So what do you think of this memory space system for equipping abilities?
You mean the charm system?
Yeah, it's basically a charm system. In hindsight, it's basically a charm system.
Maybe Hollow Knight copied La-Mulana.
You know, when I played La-Mulana, or when I played Hollow Knight, the first thing I thought of was Paper Mario.
How do you guys feel about having only a limited amount of text that you can record in game?
I mean, I can't say that it's a limitation because of the hardware that this game was released on. It may have been a limitation for the Wii U version of the game, maybe. I don't know what their memory limitations were on that game store. And I think that the first game was originally released on the Wii U. First, I think. But as a principle, or like if it was an intentional game design choice, I mean, it might be another brute force. Like, I don't know why taking notes would be a problem, but I could also see. Let's go ahead.
I kind of really.
Oh,
you go.
Yeah, you can just screenshot as much as you want. So
on Steam, you can, yeah.
Yeah.
Which accomplishes the same thing, which is what I did.
I kind of realized recently, so you have like, you know, the limit on how many pieces of information you can save in game, and this kind of, it makes you think about what specific information that you're saving, And by weighing the value of that information, it helps you remember it better. See, when I took screenshots of everything in La-Mulana 2, I just totally forgot like half of what everything was. But in La-Mulana 1, when I had a limit to what I could save, I was weighing the relative value of information, and in doing that I'm reading it multiple times, and I felt that I remembered it and came across remember things more naturally, you might say.
Because they force you to, by the limitations.
I'm not saying that they're forcing you to memorize it, but like they're helping you memorize it.
So
just because of you having to value the information. If that makes any sense.
I want to say, Caldra, that your goal is to find like a gemstone or something to activate the Ankh so you can face the boss of this area.
Right. Yeah, this is an instance where it's like, okay, I know what the goal, like one of the like larger goals is, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do to actually get the other piece to that goal.
Right.
You should read things and go places.
I want to say the shopkeep has one, but I don't remember. I mean, you haven't fought that dragon up there, but I don't think you're powerful enough for that. You did check the room to the left of where the squirrel guy was, right?
I did go there, but the door was closed. Okay.
Didn't like that. Oh yeah, that's right.
It's easy to get caught just going around in circles in this game if you don't know where to go.
Yeah, it doesn't visually guide you where you're supposed to go like a lot of games do. And in that sense, that's part of the reason why I give this game a medium fit when it comes to Metroidvania-ness, is that a lot of Metroidvanias, filling out the map is kind of the... I'm thinking of a word, I don't think it's correct. Ethos, the feel of the game, is just kind of exploring caverns. And this game is really not about that.
This game makes you work for every new room that you find.
So in that sense, while it is technically... You could technically say it's a Metroidvania in that it has an interconnected world where you have ability upgrades that allow you to progress further, and this game actually has more than the first game in that regard. The primary focus is squarely on the puzzles and not necessarily the act of moving from one room to the next to explore an area.
I think the exploration is just... like it's inherently tied to the puzzles, and sometimes there's a puzzle where all of the information to it is just located in tablets elsewhere, and it's more of just down to what information you know. But I mean, there are plenty of puzzles where the solution, you're usually doing something physically in the world, and that is exploration in my mind.
Yeah, it's kind of like the knowledge-getting argument.
Yeah, ultimately, the way you progress in La-Mulana is largely like switch-based more than ability gating.
What I mean, say you're Indiana Jones in the first movie and you have the staff, and then you you go, oh, so if I shine the light through the staff, Indiana Jones spoilers, by the way, guys, it'll reveal the location of this thing. Like, I consider that an act of exploration, even though you're not moving into a new room, you're doing something new in the room you're already in. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you're getting a better understanding of the world.
So that brings up a topic that I was thinking about earlier today. How do you define a puzzle? Like, what makes a puzzle and not just a thing? Like, for example, I was watching a video made by Steve Gaming. He rated the Ocarina of Time dungeons. And he called the first dungeon in Ocarina of Time. Has everybody here played Ocarina of Time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so in the Deku Tree in Ocarina of Time, it's a very vertical level, and one of the major things you have to do is jump from the top level of the Deku Tree into kind of a web trampoline that's in the middle of the tree, so that your velocity causes you to break through that web and reach the lower areas of the tree. And he called that a puzzle. And I was like, okay, I can see why you would call that a puzzle, but I'm like, is that what you think of when you think of a puzzle? Do you think of what is ultimately just... I mean, in a way, it's kind of just a door. I mean, it is a physics puzzle in the sense that you have to break your way in.
I mean, a lot of people do think of puzzles in video games that way. We've played a lot of... Like, I've played a lot of games that are strictly about puzzles, so I have a bit of a different definition of what a puzzle may be. But, you know, a lot of video games will claim to have puzzles when the most that they have is, like, pushing a block.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of breaking down like all the different parts of a puzzle for this, and then I realized that you could use, like, the entire game itself has all those same parts.
Just navigating a game that isn't like a straight corridor, you could call a puzzle.
Yeah.
So is pushing a block in the first Zelda game a puzzle? Do you think?
So I don't think you're actually solving anything there. You're just, like, conducting an experiment and seeing what happens.
Okay. Now, I think that pushing a block in Zelda 1 is actually very similar to jumping into the net in the Deku Tree. One of the differences is that the theming of the net kind of requires you to recognize that gravity might cause enough force in that specific situation. But besides that, is it really that much different from pushing a block in the first game? So, one thing I'm thinking about... Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, not really.
Yeah.
It's about the same.
One thing I'm thinking of as part of this discussion is the same kind of waffling in definition can come from talking about or trying to define what art is, which is a funny thing to get into. But in all technicality, basically anything created by a person could be considered art. Like, including the sign outside of your boss's door that says your boss's name on it could be considered an art piece in the sense that they picked out the color and the font to match the rest of the office building that you're in. However, if you ask most people if that was art, they're probably going to say no, even though you could make the argument that it is. So on the... Go ahead.
So you could also make the argument that puzzle is anything that makes you think.
Right.
Which should be. Most games should be making you think, but a lot of games don't, I suppose.
Like, is moving from left to right in Mario and pulling down the flag, is that a puzzle?
But is moving left at the start of a game a puzzle?
Some games, yeah, like if suddenly you have that as an option, it's like there's a bell curve there that well, I don't know, maybe not a bell curve, but an exponential growth curve where you draw a line and say from here up is a puzzle and everything else is not, or anything below this line is not. I think that people think of art in a very similar way too.
So puzzle would require someone to make the puzzle, right? You can't, like, a puzzle has to have intentionality behind its creation just by definition. So you could argue that if the person who made it doesn't think that it's a puzzle, then it's not a puzzle.
So Malphus Belmont says that puzzles are meant to test logic. So using the Mario example, that is not meant to test logic then. Different parts of the brain, for sure. I mean, and I've heard some people say that combat, like strategic combat versus mindless combat, I've heard some people say that the combat is like a puzzle because of how much thinking is involved with it. What does that sign underneath this thing say again, Caldroth?
On the bottom of this screen just says not to... Okay.
Do not approach, do not attempt to grasp that which cannot be reached by your hands.
So the eyeball is closed now.
Oh, that's probably just what I needed to do.
Aha. I was gonna say I was thinking this room is the room that.
Oh.
Yep, there it is, right there. Had the highest potential of progression, based on out of all the rooms that we had. Oh, so the shurikens are required to progress the game. It looks like. Would you call that
ability gating?
What's that? Key gating?
Ability gating.
Ability gating, in a way.
Wish I had the ability to throw things.
You have to have the thing to throw.
Oh, you're right.
Alright, so let's talk about what makes a good puzzle. Was that a good puzzle that Caldroth did just there?
I think that was more of a riddle situation where I was like not actually reading the thing before.
Yeah, it's hard to do riddles when you're in a conversation, I suppose.
Yeah, you kind of use the same part of your brain.
But hey, you solved it eventually.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you can't multitask, or you can't put two of those same tasks in the same route, or I don't know what you call that part of your brain. Hope you have enough shurikens.
I have 43. I bought a bunch.
It was a good move. I like how this boss is less dangerous than that dragon.
It's dangerous than that mini boss.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're just supposed to run from that one.
I'm like, when I finally beat that boss, I think I brought a gun. Just shot it. Actually, no, I do remember throwing shurikens at it, and I think it takes like 100 shurikens or something crazy.
Yeah, like the first game, I didn't use the gun on any bosses until the very last one, and then I'm just like, I just basically shot the last boss to death.
It was on the last boss that was completely necessary for me having the gun. That's the only. I used it once earlier and realized it would just destroy bosses, and I decided not to use it.
So I used the gun too much. So on the final boss, I think I had 2 shots, and I used it on. That boss has 4 phases. Not to spoil too much, but I think I used it on the 3rd phase, so I had to do the final phase.
I used it on one of the middle phases.
I actually don't think he has the gun yet, Salmace.
It was still a hard boss even with the gun, in my opinion.
Well, that was pretty easy.
This is the tutorial after all.
I actually don't remember any of the bosses in this game. Like, I remember bosses from the first game. I remember the final boss in this game, but I remember a few bosses from the first game. And especially
the boss might have a different attack on hard mode. I feel like I remember that boss doing something else.
Do you play this game on hard mode? You crazy, man.
Started on hard.
You crazy.
I didn't play La-Mulana 1 on hard mode, though.
If I remember correctly, the crystal skulls are like the key cards in the first Metal Gear, in the sense that the more you have, the more doors you can open.
I thought the keycard was just upgraded as you went.
Right. So in this game, if you have 2 crystal skulls, it's like you have a level 2 key card, etc., etc. I guess that was a bad example.
Kind of makes this game, well, it's probably better that it's this way rather than just some arbitrary door opening somewhere after you do something.
That was one of the things in the first one that I severely disliked. Like, there was this one boss that when you beat it, it opened a door in a completely different area. And it gave 0 indication that there was a door there beforehand.
Yeah, I agree on that specific case. Believe I know what you're thinking.
So there was a door down from here. I was about to say south, but it's not really south.
I'm sure he'll remember where to go.
Yeah, there were a few doors.
So did I already ask the question, what makes a good puzzle?
Yes, and then we got distracted by the boss.
Okay, that's what happened. So what makes a good puzzle, Master?
Well, I'm not sure about what makes a good puzzle, but I do know what makes a great puzzle. It's... you can't... The solution... way the solution works has to be something that you didn't initially suspect, but something you can figure out. If it's something where it's just the execution of the puzzle that you're figuring out, that's not a great puzzle. You can have good puzzles based around execution, like Batbarian, for example, has a lot of good puzzles based around execution, but I think a great puzzle has to go beyond that.
So
Salme's put it in nice words. Something that makes you feel smart when you solve it.
So the
You usually don't feel smart when you just execute a puzzle that you already just instantly knew the answer to.
I like to call those cogwheel puzzles, where the player comes along and the gears are already spinning on one side, and all you have to do is get in the middle and it spins the rest of the gears for you.
Yeah, you need to make sure that you can't accidentally solve the puzzle.
Some puzzles are better classified as activities, and they feel
That's a good way to put it.
They feel like padding rather than gameplay.
Like when it involves just pushing a block to like a ledge so you can jump on top of it.
Right. Oh man, that's annoying in like the Resident Evil games.
I mean, there's stuff like that in a lot of Metroidvanias too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Bloodstained did it.
I'd rather push a block than punch a boulder. Yeah, I'm gonna use the word activities now on when I'm describing terrible block puzzles. That's like it's the best way to put it, because I realized I was exerting my anger on a type of puzzle that did not deserve it. Because I realized block puzzles are cool.
Oh, Baba is you is basically just Sokuban.
You needed a dedicated good block puzzle game.
Right, I was close-minded and I thought of block puzzles as only being those awful activities you find in other games. But that is not true.
That was actually why I don't like the first Metroid Prime as much as Metroid Prime 2. And that is because a lot of the puzzles in that game feel like activities and not puzzles. Oh yeah, the fairies. I forgot about these guys. She's got a very masculine face, at least from an anime perspective. But she's got the chest, so pretty sure it's a lady.
Maybe gender doesn't matter to the fairies.
Maybe not.
You've got 15 weights, that's a lot of weights. It's like 15 doors you can open.
I specifically bought weights.
I always bought weights when I go back to town, just because I'm always afraid of running out. Use them shurikens. I forgot how many shuriken puzzles this game had. This makes me want to play this again.
There was this one puzzle in this game. It took me embarrassingly long to figure out the puzzle, but like it was similar to a puzzle from the first game, and I had assumed that the solution would be similar to the puzzle from the first game.
Oh,
and that would require an item, but it didn't require the item I thought it did. And it made complete sense in hindsight.
That's actually a really good sequel tactic. Especially when you're making a puzzle game like this. Having a puzzle that's similar to the original, but then subverting your expectations is a wonderful thing to do.
It is. I read that the remaster changed around some puzzles from the original, specifically to trip up people who thought they could just get by with the solutions from the original.
Hmm. So I think that this counts as the backside, and so you have to get a new chalice for the backside.
Oh, okay.
And that's why that's not working. Which I actually remember being a big hindrance for a good until you get it. Which actually kind of goes back on my La-Mulana has great design because you can teleport whenever you want. Assertion.
Right, this is the equivalent of the extended tutorial, though.
Yeah. Yeah, you can make the argument that they're taking away your ability to teleport makes you appreciate and use it more. I think enjoying La-Mulana is very contingent on knowing that you have that ability to just jump anywhere you want, whenever you want.
They also just give it to you right away in this game before you do anything, but in the first one you have to solve the puzzles in the Gate of Guidance first.
You pretty much have to have read the manual.
Huh?
Like, it tells you in the manual where it is.
Oh, in the first game?
Yeah.
Right, it's just one of the easy couple of puzzles located in the Gate of Guidance, though. I never had a problem figuring it out, but I do know that some people ended up not finding it because they didn't complete the Gate of Guidance.
The first time I played the game, I didn't actually get it.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a good change that they made sure you have it in this game. Because while you could, like, it's okay to expect the player to complete the tutorial, sometimes players do unexpected things. It's kind of a severe punishment for someone, you know, going somewhere else. Though generally, I mean, just the way the game is laid out, you're going back and forth between areas. Kind of surprising if someone can get through a significant portion of the game without just completing the puzzles in that first area.
I mean, you can just exit at any time. Actually, the first time I played the game, I went straight to the Egyptian area without even...
Yeah, what I mean is that just, you know, when you're constantly going between different corners of the map trying to figure out where to go next or what to do. And in doing that, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to spot and solve what would be a comparatively easy puzzle in the beginning of the game.
I forgot about these guys. I love the, I don't know what it is, it's just, I want to call it a Japanese sense of humor where they kind of have silly things that don't necessarily break the... I don't know, it has a charm to it. Are you trying to jump down the hole? There you go.
It does have a charm to it.
I don't know how to describe it though, because like...
It's quirky.
It's quirky, yeah. It feels like it's like on the fringe of being cringe, but it's not.
It's cute.
Yeah.
So did you get this far in the game before, Coldra?
No, I was in the first area still.
Oh, you're in Valhalla. This is actually the place where I got trapped like over and over again. I'll tell you which trap it is when you get to it. In fact.
Right. Once I've died to it at least once.
Oh, you don't die. It's just a spike trap.
Oh, okay. You can still die to the spike traps.
Like I got hit by that trap so much that this entire area is burned into my brain.
I always liked the corn enemy.
Right, this is part of the quirkiness that we were talking about. You guys are completely free to laugh at me when I tell you which trap it is too.
So this one, this is also backside.
I think it's also backside. I think when the gravestone or whatever you want to call that is red, it counts as backside.
Does it explain that concept in the tutorial?
No. In fact, if you haven't played the first game, it's just kind of like, it's a thing that they do in this game. It's not like such a huge deal like it is in the first game.
So I think there was a staircase in the first area, and I did not realize that the staircases work.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I will mention the trap. I just want to see if Caldreth gets caught by it. There he goes.
That
one right there. over and over and over again.
I can see that happening.
The worst part about it is it's so obvious it's there. But the thing is that like every time I was going up there, I was always heading somewhere, and I wasn't thinking about watch your feet. There's a trap.
Yeah.
It's probably because the ceiling is so low. You're just thinking about scooting along.
Yeah, it's like the rake trap in Salt Sanctuary. Oh man!
What was the rake trap?
In the forest area, there was a rake trap right next to the save point, and the first time I played the game, I got hit by that almost every time. It was hilarious because I actually recently played through Salt and Sanctuary again with my co-op buddy, and he got hit by it so many times. I'm just jumping over it. I'm like, yeah, I'm way past this now. Get good.
Kodrith, did you intentionally jump over the obvious trap?
Probably not. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, we fell down the hole just now.
So here's something funny.
I fell onto the spikes, so I don't know.
I wonder if this person... I just love how it's a duck and a top hat for no reason. It's just so Japanese. I like how he doesn't give you the caltrops unless you found it already.
Yeah. They're sold out. They just don't have it in stock.
So
I guess that's saying the black tablet is the one. Oh, and if you don't have the chalice here, I don't know if you can actually progress. Like, I'll probably die if I... Yeah.
Aren't you
Yeah, I don't
kind
think
of
you have a
forced
choice.
to pick up the chalice, though? Or at least strongly told that you have to pick up the chalice in the intro?
Yeah. And this one. I think there were some situations in the first game, though, that were inescapable without the chalice.
There's one situation in particular that I remember where if you...
Yeah, there's like a cage or something you get locked in.
think if you warp to a certain area that's related to another area in a very sunny place.
I like how you're trying to be vague so like nobody knows what you're talking about. You have to grab the thing for the thing and go to the thing. It's obvious.
It's true. Most likely, the people watching and you guys, you know, not going to be spoiled. But I still don't want to say things that could be spoilers.
No, I wouldn't try and spoil the first game as much as possible. First game has a lot more mind-blowing moments. Like I said, it's just... This is... You've been there. That's the problem.
Maybe the first game is more susceptible to being ruined by someone following a guide. No, this is like an actual topic we were going to talk about.
We were going to talk
yeah.
about it, yeah. Should you use guides? Or what are the ethics of using guides?
Well, that and also, like, how do you, like, what does it mean when a player uses a guide for your game? Like, does it mean that was a failure on the player's part? Was it a failure on your part?
I know some people who won't even attempt to play, like, they won't put any effort into a game. They'll just immediately look up a guide before even trying. So, I mean, like, there's always going to be people like that who will just look up a guide right away, and that's obviously a failure on their part.
Some of the games I play don't have guides. Because I'm one of
That's the problem when you
people
play,
who
like,
them.
really obscure games.
Or like Eternal Return, or... I need to make my own map for that game. I think I need it. The guide is a pair of... So, Down 9000 says, a guide is a pair of floaties. If it gets them in the water, how is that bad? So this kind of goes back to that conversation we had last week about whether or not Dark Souls should have an easy mode. And that's kind of my feeling on it. Like, if a person uses a guide and enjoys the game, then is it really a problem? And if it helps them enjoy the game?
What if someone complains about the game after using a guide? Like, for example, La-Mulana, if they complain about the puzzles after relying on a guide.
I think it depends on what they're complaining about. But there are people that do use... Go ahead.
So if I use a guide and then I see the solution to the puzzle and I'm like, that's dumb, then I don't feel bad about using the guide at all. If I look at the solution to the puzzle and I'm like, oh, I should have known that, then I feel bad about using the guide. And the more times I feel like that that the puzzle was dumb and not me, the more likely I'm to continue using a guide in the future. It's kind of a loss of trust.
The problem with guides is that a lot of them, I think, like the problem is the bad guides more so than the good guides. Like if you have a guide that's hint based and is careful not to spoil the experience, then that can definitely be a help to the game, but sometimes there's information you're not meant to know, and knowing that information will affect your experience negatively.
So
Yeah, I've seen guides that have like progressively less vague hints. Like you're like, I want to know how to do this puzzle, and then it like gives you a super vague hint, and then you're like, that's not enough, and then you ask for more and more and more, and so you just need to go as deep as you need to.
oh man, what was the name of that back in the day? So I used to play Sierra Adventure games, and those games are full of moon logic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, some of the later ones aren't so bad, but it was called UHF. UHS.
Oh, like us. Yeah, I use those.
Yeah. I don't even remember where you got them from. Like, I guess it came from online. If you had access back then. I had access to internet pretty early in my life because my mom worked for America Online, but yeah, the Universal Hint System is what UHS stands for, and it was like an interactive program, and you could reveal hints gradually, and it was like the earliest form of game FAQs back in the day, and we used that a few times with these Sierra Adventure games, trying to figure out what to do. And I thought that was really well done. I think that's actually the best way to do a guide. There are guides that are basically just cheat sheets, and I think that could ruin La-Mulana for you. I think there's a really good guide on Steam that kind of does the hint-based thing, that does a really good job on it. If it doesn't tell you the thought process that it would take to arrive at the conclusion, then it's really easy to think that the answer is dumb.
That's the problem with using a guide to figure out something that's like a multi-step process.
Right.
You may not understand the thought process, and then it just seems dumb.
And some
And
guys,
it's like you can't just have pictures of every single room or every single tablet in your guide. I mean, you could, but that'd get a bit hard to read through.
you got the big enabler breaking these seals. This game is actually kind of doing La-Mulana 1 backwards in some ways.
How is the order backwards?
Well, like, you still had those seal things in La-Mulana 1, but it was like the very end game activity.
The seals were kind of... I thought that was more mid-game.
It's been a long time since I played that game, to be honest.
Maybe you're thinking of the
mantras?
Yeah, those. 'Cause that was very
I'm
end
thinking of the
game.
mantras, yeah.
But those show up early here.
Yeah. That was the other thing. Okay, so La-Mulana 1, another kind of criticism that I have of this game compared to the first game is that the first game, I felt like every area kind of had its own area gimmick, whereas this game, it felt a little bit more standardized. It's kind of the Mega Man problem. Like the original Mega Man 2, like when they really found their formula, every level had a very distinct gameplay mechanic on top of being just a thematic difference. And then by Mega Man 4, they kind of standardized the formula of how levels are designed instead of being wild with it, and that's kind of what this game feels like.
A little bit. I wouldn't completely agree.
this game definitely still has some gimmicks. But, like, for instance, in La-Mulana 1, you had the kind of the gauntlet of traps that kind of led to the end game. Sticks out in my mind because it's so distinct from all of the other areas. And then you have, like, the area of illusions, which you saw at the beginning of this game, that had completely mind-blowing aspects to it. And part of the problem is they couldn't do that twice and still have the same impact, so it's understandable that they wouldn't do it in this game. But they didn't really have a good enough replacement for that.
No, I agree. I'm taking your opinion. It is now mine. La-Mulana 2 doesn't have enough gimmicks.
But you haven't beat the game, so you wouldn't know that. It does have gimmicks, and it does have some areas that are more distinct than others. One area in particular is really sticks out in my mind as being kind of oppressive, but it's also not a gimmick I like because of how oppressive it feels. So
with
La-Mulana
1, like, every area I can remember pretty clearly, and then with this, especially these couple of early game levels, like Valhalla and that other one, and that other one, they're kind of the same.
Yeah, this and Yggdrasil, Roots of Yggdrasil are very similar.
But with La-Mulana 1, yeah, each area is pretty distinct.
Yeah, you had the water area, you had the Egyptian area with all of the sloped walls that you kind of slid down. You had the area with the giants where you had all the statues everywhere, and felt like the lore, the theming was more fleshed out, even though it was kind of an insane mishmash of different archaeological attractions. Like you had a Egyptian area, you had the Aztec area, you had the Greek area, and et cetera, et cetera.
The music may help as well, because I don't because I'm watching through Twitch to read Twitch chat. I don't have the music on.
Mm-hmm.
The music helps make the area feel more distinct as well. La-Mulana really had some excellent soundtracks.
So on the subject of guides, when do you think... So, Master, I think you have the stance that you should never use a guide, or...
No, you... Okay, before I answer that, there was something I was going to bring up that I found interesting. An approach that you don't often see when a game has its own guide within itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Myst. I don't know if it's in every version of Myst, actually.
I was about to say, I never actually beat that game as a kid. It was way too obtuse for me when I was, like 10 or 11? I don't remember how old I was when it came out.
The version of Myst I played... It was the I think it was the second most recent 3D one. I don't know which version is which.
So Same's brought up something really interesting. Minecraft.
The game is more new player friendly now than it used to be, because before you wouldn't know recipes or how to do things.
I remember having
what another portal was. That game was kind of community focused, honestly. But
now 9000 points out that a lot of mobile games put guides in their games, but usually to monetize the game.
Hint systems and cheats where you have to, or those are in-app purchases, and that's different than a guide.
I have no qualms with going on game FAQs to get my answers instead, personally. Especially since mobile games are often designed around trying to entice you to... They want you to spend money, and so the game is designed to try and get you to do that.
There are also games like, say, Professor Layton, where you have a hint system, but if you abuse the hint system all the time, then you'll run out of hint coins.
Yeah, that was actually started with the Castle of Dr. Brain, the hint coin system. I think it was literally coins in that game too. I think this room is beeping just because it has that seal on the wall, but you don't have the seal yet.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe.
yeah, my stance on guides is that you can use them, but you're probably it's not for every game, but for some games you may be doing yourself a disservice, and you could be ruining the game for yourself without knowing it. So use at your own risk. But of course, if it's a game with a large community focus, you're expected to use the community to know what to do. That's a bit different than like using a guide on a single player game.
So I'm not going to lie, when I played Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, I immediately looked up a guide to see what weapons were available so I could plan out my build. How do we feel about that?
I mean, that's fine.
That's actually one of the
like-
things I enjoy doing is planning builds.
Wow, you should play Path of Exile. There, I mentioned on stream.
Yeah, there's some games like I'm sure Path of Exile is that way, Warframe's that way too, where you pretty much need to have a guide to like know how to do everything in the game.
Well, if you don't, maybe. Build guides can get complicated. But you can also, it's not like it's information that's not available to you elsewhere. There are resources that aren't guides that you can use for many of these games.
So what makes something a guide versus a resource?
Well, a resource usually just has values of... So when I think of a resource, I usually think of, say for Path of Exile, a list of the items in the game, or a crafting simulator. Those are resources.
So what if
You
you had a
use
list?
them for your own ends. You're not following them. You're going into the resource expecting to get something out of it, and then you get the thing.
I think what Master is trying to say is that it doesn't give you the answer to how to beat the game. It just gives you information that is helpful, but the execution is still up to you.
Wouldn't that be true of a guide to La-Mulana, where it tells you how to do the puzzle, but you still have to execute the puzzle?
No.
I think it's because the main challenge in something like Dark Souls is actually going in and performing the dexterity challenge of beating the boss without dying. Whereas in this game, I would not say that the primary focus of this game is the combat. I think that that is a feature that is nice in this game, but as we've seen from the two bosses that we looked at, they tend to be a little simplistic. If that were the main draw of this game, like if you stripped all the puzzles out of this game, it'd probably be pretty mediocre. So using a guide in La-Mulana is more akin to handing the controller to your brother in Dark Souls than it is looking up a build choices for Dark Souls.
With puzzles, I don't think you have... There aren't many cases where you have a resource for the puzzle. In some Zachtronics games, there's a manual that comes with it, and in the manual are instructions on how to... You know, if it's a programming puzzle, programming game, it lists for you the different commands that you can do, but it's obviously still completely up to you to figure out how to use those, and that's the puzzle. I'd say that's a resource. But otherwise, I can't really think of resources for puzzle games because if you're being given information about a puzzle, that's usually spoiling the puzzle.
So what if it was just like a list of all of the things on the tablets? Would that be a resource or would that be a guide?
That would be a resource, but with the condition that you should have discovered those tablets in game before you look at the list, because sometimes there's information that's locked behind progression, and I guess there's not really that much of not knowing knowing information early from a tablet messing up the game.
Probably.
So, I mean, I'd say it's mostly a resource. But
it'd be like starting in the middle of a chapter book without reading the first part. You wouldn't necessarily know what's going on.
I mean, if you went to a list of all the tablets and then you like Control F searched for something that you know you've read before, I'd say that's a resource.
I'd almost be willing to say a map of this game would be a resource rather than a spoiler. Almost. I can't think of a map really giving you enough information to ruin the puzzles. I also don't really see it being that helpful either.
What if it was a map with all of the hidden passages marked?
That would be a guide. Sort of. Wouldn't be a written guide. It'd be a visual guide. Because it's marking the passages.
So the second game has spoilers when it comes to the maps, you think, Melphis Belmont? I'm trying to think of the, like, how badly would this game be spoiled if you had a map?
Well, there's still, if you have a map and you can see what's ahead, there are certain things that you learn about that you have to discover, and knowing where the thing is would impact the way you play the game, perhaps.
He was thinking the first game, and I actually completely agree with that. I think if you had a map in the first game, you would definitely be spoiled on some things. So no, it's hard to say. After I made such a huge deal about it, you're never going to fall for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm only here to help. So I don't know. I think something like a directory of what all the tablets say is more of a convenience factor. You don't have to do it yourself. So it's hard to say. A lot of Metroidvanias, I think it would be a spoiler if you looked at if you had a map, because that is a primary draw of the game. You're actively subverting the game's main challenge.
Yeah, in exploration-based games, if you know where you're going, then that kind of ruins the experience of not knowing where you're going. And that feeling of being lost is kind of important sometimes, depending on the game.
Whereas this game doesn't have a map that fills itself in like so many other Metroidvania games. Like, once you get that map, you have the entire area. This area, anyway.
And the map isn't very detailed. It's just like, there's a room there.
Yeah, the base map is probably the least helpful map in any game.
Yeah, it's like a Zelda-style map.
It just tells you that screens exist in a direction.
Which is sometimes helpful.
Of course it can be helpful, it's just not as helpful as most maps.
As I mentioned in the first La-Mulana, you actually have to pay attention to the names of each room.
Does it even have a name? Oh, I guess this is the antechamber of Cataclysm.
Yeah, so it's because it's an antechamber, you know that it moves up and down.
Is that how it works?
Now 9000 says that this game gives him Spelunky vibes. Yeah,
Well, it's thematically similar.
and both Spelunky 1 and Spelunky 2 have a male and female protagonists, respectively, just like La-Mulana.
I remember reading somewhere that the Spelunky games were partially inspired by La-Mulana.
Really? That's interesting because they're nothing alike. Spelunky is definitely more of a... I don't want to say action game per se. It's more of a survival type game.
Let's see. Oh yes, Derek Yu credits La-Mulana as inspiration.
I love these characters. They're great. You've unlocked a shortcut. This must be a Metroidvania. I don't remember if we can do anything.
Will you
with this
approach?
yet. Oh, yeah, you can do something with this. I remember now.
This part still confuses me because I'm not sure if, like, I know what, I'm aware of the things and I did the things, but I feel as if there was perhaps a method of doing the thing, like a pattern that I didn't understand.
Yeah, you get there eventually. This is kind of an end game thing. So, on the subject of La-Mulana 1 having better gimmicks and themings, that little quarter of blood is one of the standouts in this game, I think. Of an interesting thing that it does.
Definitely.
Derek, you made a Metroidvania game before he made Spelunky with Aquaria. I also think he made another one called Eternal Daughter. I haven't played that one yet.
Oh, I didn't know he made Aquaria.
He did with the developer of A Night in the Woods.
Interesting that those things go back.
I would
All connected.
Totally warp if I were you. Yeah, it's interesting how that all works. Yeah, and then he had a Metroidvania with Eternal Daughter as well. Spelunky has some... I'm not going to call it a Metroidvania because that would be very controversial, but it has that open area feel to it. I don't know
Aquaria
if
does.
No, Spelunky has that open area feel to it, the way he set up the modularity of the roguelike setup. I don't get a sense that there is any influence of Aquaria on Spelunky at all. I'm upset that Aquaria is never going to get its sequel because it kind of ends off in a little bit of a cliffhanger. I don't know, Derek, you'll ever pick that up again. So you're making pretty good progress, Caldroth. You might as well just keep going until you're done. 40 hours later.
I feel like I've been wandering around in circles a lot.
Yeah, that happens.
That's because you've been engaged in conversation.
Yeah.
No, I ran in circles a lot when I played this originally, too. This is one of those games that, like, when I set my mind to review it, I have to, like, set aside 2 weeks worth of time, at least, where I can take days off of work to really digest it.
When do you think would be a good stopping point?
I think that's up to Caldroth. Are you saying you want to do?
Yeah. Do you guys want to do the?
You want to do Super Metroid tonight?
I mean, it's kind of a tradition. What time is it now?
It's 8:40, so that would give us about 50 minutes of Super Metroid.
Yeah, I guess this is probably a pretty decent stopping point.
I think we kind of milked the La-Mulana topic pool on it.
What are your closing thoughts about La-Mulana 2?
So far I haven't hit any of the like issues that I had with the original one.
Okay. So you've said about La-Mulana 1, you really like it, except for the issues. So if this game doesn't have the issues, you love this game. That's what you're telling me.
I'm telling you that so far I am enjoying this game.
Excellent.
Good. Well, I'm interested in whether or not it ends up being a game that you like in the end. Welcome back, Zombies.
Yeah. So do you want to go ahead and switch over to?
Yep. Let me go ahead and just turn off the window capture here.
I'll just go like ram my face against this boss.
And then it should automatically switch to Super Metroid now. Let's see if that works. I think I saved in game position 6 last time. Yep, there we go. Alright, so where we left off in this game is being completely lost. Not knowing where I can find treasure. Oh, gosh. Alright, so I think my best bet is to go back to Zelda. No, I don't need to do bomb jump anymore. I'm done doing bomb jumps. We've had enough bomb jumping for this run. I actually found out that there's not a lot of treasure back there either, so unfortunately it's just more treasure chests in Zelda, so you spend way more time in Zelda in the end. Is the music too loud, everyone? Or does it sound okay? Oh gosh, I just realized I left the Discord chat. Ha ha ha. There we go.
Hey, you're back.
Wait. I was like, why isn't anyone telling me that he started the game yet? How long do I have to keep playing La-Mulana 2?
No, we've started. Sorry, I exited the stream and I actually exited the chat. It's not the first time I've done that either, I don't think.
So where are we in the randomizer?
So right now I'm trying to figure out what treasures we've missed. I think there might be some treasures inside the dungeons that I haven't found yet. So I'm trying to go back to those right now to see if we can find some progress items. The main thing I need is, like, the speed boost would get us a lot of things in Super Metroid. The space jump, of course. I don't remember if this treasure chest finding thing has a heart piece or not. I seem to remember it does.
Yeah, there's a heart piece.
So I don't know if the randomizer has anything hidden here.
How can you tell whether you actually got the real prize or not?
I have no
Because
idea.
maybe that 10 arrows was the real prize.
That's true, unfortunately. Well, if nothing else, we're getting some refills, so I'll just do this a couple more times. So I don't know. So in conclusion, do we think that no matter what you do with your game, it's okay?
I don't think that's true. I think there's better ways of doing things and ways to make your game less frustrating for the player at least. But maybe your intention is to make it frustrating.
Yeah, is that always a bad thing? Making your game frustrating? Like, can you make your game intentionally frustrating and still be okay?
So I think that anything is fine as long as it's intentional. Like if your game is frustrating and you're not meaning for it to be frustrating, then that's a problem. If the entire goal is to get the player to feel frustrated, then that's fine, but you also need some way to motivate the player to continue playing it, despite it being frustrating.
Usually, people playing video games want to feel good about themselves. So, a way of making people feel good about themselves is by making them feel frustrated, but then releasing that frustration. And they no longer feel frustrated, and that makes them happier.
So is that the point of all games, is to make you feel good about yourself?
Maybe. Or do you feel good about yourself when you play this randomizer?
Not right now, I don't.
But see, that's building up frustration so you can release it later. It's kind of like the whole beating the Dark Souls boss thing.
Oh no, you've actually mentioned it.
We've already mentioned it.
We did? I don't remember mentioning it
Pretty
today.
sure.
We mentioned this. I mentioned how there was...
Are you kidding me?
Oh, just generally, people will respond better when there is a negative stimulus that is removed, rather than just there not being any stimulus. Like there's pleasure from the removal of something that's not pleasurable.
Actually,
And overall, your net pleasure is positive, which doesn't seem to make sense.
So you should make your game as crappy as possible and then make it stop being crappy.
Maybe.
Just have some random power up that just makes it. Actually, that's kind of like what a lot of Metroidvanias do. Is you just get a power up at the end, and then it makes everything like super easy.
this is making me think of was it Bartle's taxonomy? What is his name? Barton?
Yeah, I think it's Barrow's taxonomy.
Bartle's taxonomy, where he mentions the pleasures you can get from gaming, I think is kind of what he's trying to define. With the different types of gamers there are.
Yeah, he ties it to like a given player is a given type or a combination of types, but
Right.
I think that a lot of games like make a player wants different things from different games.
I agree completely. I play different games for different reasons. It's not like a certain player can just pick up any game in their library at any time and have the same experience or the same enjoyment from them.
How do you measure enjoyment? Like, is it like when you go to the hospital and they tell them how much pain you're in, and you give it to them on a scale of 1 to 10? Can you put your enjoyment on a scale of 1 to 10?
I mean, isn't that kind of what rating a game is?
Well, no.
But are you
Because you
rating
can
enjoyment always?
enjoy bad games, but still see that they're bad. Or enjoy them for reasons related to them being bad.
But what is
But
bad?
would you say that your score is the expected amount of enjoyment you would get out of the game? Whereas you personally might have gotten more or less?
I mean, if you were expecting to hate a game and then it turned out that the game was only okay, or are you saying that's a positive review?
So Salme says rating a game is not equal to how much you enjoyed the game.
Thank you, Salmaze.
Okay, this is the room that has
So then- So it's not how much you enjoy the game, but yeah, like I was saying, how much you'd expect an average player to enjoy the game.
That usually has to do with the quality of the game. You see, Professor Q here rates his games. He rates the different aspects of the game and how much quality they have. But those different aspects of the game can mean different fun levels, depending on how much any particular player enjoys that aspect.
So, tangent
But
time. In the Japanese language, they do not like making assumptions about what people are thinking in the language. Like, it's built into the language and culture. Like, you can't say, like, I can't say, in English I could say Salmes is, or Caldrath is totally thinking that he loves this. That you could technically say that grammatically speaking, but you just don't do that because you can't make assumptions about what people are thinking.
That sounds nice.
Do they not have psychiatrists?
I have no idea. That's one aspect of Japanese that I have not studied. I'm sure they do. But what I'm sure that they dance around the idea or suggest. The way you would say it is that you look like you're thinking this, or which is being a little pedantic about meaning there, but it was something that stuck out to me when we were learning Japanese and kind of how to grammatically structure things. But what I'm getting at is that when you rate something with the expectation that, you know, if I give this a 9 out of 10, then 9 out of 10 people will like it. It seems like you're being presumptuous by definition.
Sorry.
That you couldn't possibly know how people are going to react unless you have long conversations with them and kind of learn about people.
So to further use Professor Q as an example, he rates La-Mulana a 5 out of 5, but does that mean he thinks that everyone will love the game? Heck no.
Heck no.
So then why do you give it a 5 out of 5?
In fact, I opened the game with, this game is a very narrow niche. Or I opened my review with, this game is a very narrow niche. I give it a 5 out of 5 because to me, and this is going into the scoring system, which would probably take an entire thing to talk about. Hey, I have a key. Hopefully there's a treasure in here. And hopefully it's the speed boots or something, and not the compass. That's good, I guess. I shouldn't be too disappointed about it, but I am disappointed. So
you did not enjoy that.
But you didn't get the reserve tank, so it doesn't even matter.
E-tanks would have helped last time when I did that bomb jump. Okay, that's the only room I don't think we covered in here, so that is a treasure that we found, and it was useless. Or, useless is a strong word.
It was not progression enabling.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. So the TLDR version of my scoring system is that and I tried to think of games as earning points rather than deducting points. But I actually kind of start games with a 3 out of 5 and then kind of move it up or down from there. But a 1 is that the game exists, a 2 is that the game has something unique or interesting about it, and a 3 is the game is good and entertaining, a 4 is the game is art or it's great, and then a 5 is what I consider a standard setter. And the reason why La-Mulana gets a 5 out of 5 is because to have the experience of La-Mulana, you have to play La-Mulana, and on top of that, I think La-Mulana has a very great experience behind it.
So if can something be a standard setter if no other games do it?
Technically, yes, but in order to have a 5, you need to also be a 3 or a 4. And you can be a unique game without being a good game, or even an entertaining game. or even an interesting game for that matter. I'm sure that you could have a completely new game that is a 1 out of 5 because it has nothing else good about it besides the fact that it's the only game that does what it does.
E.T. was a very unique game when it came out.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That doesn't mean it gets a 5 out of 5 if it can't even get a 2 out of 5. I actually have no idea what I would rate E.T. because I don't think I've actually played it. I think I've only watched videos of it.
I mean, I have a speedrun of it.
Wow.
And I agree with Salmes. I actually like bad games. I think they're more interesting than boring games. Is this all that's in this room? Did we already come in here before?
So there's a difference between a game that's just bad and doesn't do anything interesting and a game that, like, took some risks that didn't pan out.
Right. Right, which is one of the reasons why I say even if I give a game a 2 out of 5, that doesn't necessarily mean you should throw it in the trash. Although a lot of times when I give a game a 2 out of 5 is because I was completely bored while I was playing it. Generally speaking, if I think that a game is close to being a good, entertaining game, I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5. So, and yeah, Silverend is making the observation that I do have a pretty high tolerance for jank. That's true. Generally speaking, if a game is super janky, I don't give it a 4 out of 5 unless it's something like, what is that game? Bon Appetit, where it is uniquely good in other ways. And so here's the funny thing about scoring systems is that no matter what I do with my scoring system, people are going to disagree with what my numbers mean.
Yeah, that's because rating games is ultimately subjective.
Right.
Unless you do something where it's like you actually force like 100 people to play it and then like you measure the dopamine released in their brain while they're playing and you average the amount.
In which case,
could be an objective score.
That still doesn't tell you what you're going to react to or how you are going to react to it. Okay, I swear that I missed a treasure in here somewhere. But it looks like I've been in every room. I'm going to go with, if I've completed every room, then we're not going to waste our time. We'll come back later. But I think it says on the, I have like a treasure location map that comes with the website that you can download this ROM hack from. Do I have the map on the stage? How do I tell if I have the map on the stage?
Is this map a guide, though?
Sounds like a guide.
Yeah, it's a guide. I'm going to completely admit that. Let's see. We're going to check all the dungeons to see. Do I need to go back to the ice dungeon?
One of the subjects related to guides that I wanted to discuss was how do you minimize a player's desire to use a guide for your game?
I think having in-game hit systems helps a lot. Some people would argue that the reason why you need a guide is because it's not intuitively designed well enough. What do you think, Master?
I'll say that again.
How do you minimize a player's desire to use a guide for your game?
That's an excellent question. You make a good game. They're like different games are just they have different levels of making people want to use a guide, and then each player has their own individual tolerance of when they will use a guide. It's just really hard to So I assume it's hard to, as a developer, try to incentivize people not to use a guide without telling them not to use a guide.
That might just incentivize them to use a guide more.
Exactly. I mean, an answer could be just have nothing worth looking up. Just make your game so boring you don't need a guide to beat it. And that's the only answer that I can really think of. And that's obviously not an answer anyone should use.
So one thing that I've noticed when I use guides is that it's usually because it's the only way to progress. So if you have a lot of different progression paths, then a player is less likely to fall back to a guide when they have something else they can try.
On the other hand, if someone feels lost, they may resort to a guide. If they see that there's multiple places to go and they're thinking, "Oh my goodness, I'm here, but what about those other places? What if I'm supposed to be there first?" They will Google that. And they will look up a guide.
But they probably won't look up something really in depth in that.
Maybe. Really only know a few people who have talked about using guides. It's not really a topic of conversation I have, and I don't want to just start making blanket assumptions about the majority of players. But
it is kind of a taboo thing where, like, oh, you used a guide. That's terrible.
Yeah, there is that, but also I just get the impression that the majority of people don't have the patience for like a longer game or something like La-Mulana.
So you're saying that they'd be more likely to quit than to look at a guide?
Well, they'd probably look at a guide before they quit, but you can have patience. Like, sometimes the patience is just, you have to be patient in figuring out what to do because you don't know right away. It's not necessarily giving the game a chance if you're not liking it.
Yeah, that was the thing that I brought up with the La-Mulana's difficulty, where if you're having trouble with the combat and the puzzles, then feeds them one into the other.
I'm trying to think of, like, so I play a lot of games that nobody's played before, and as a result, when I say nobody, I mean people probably played them, but nobody talks about them. There aren't any hints online, so if I'm in a position where I don't know what to do and I can't just reach for a guide, what do those games do to make me not want to reach for a guide? A lot of games just tell you where everything is in the end of the game. I think that's pretty common. There's a room ahead.
Right, and that's the answer that I said was terrible and that games shouldn't do. Though actually, I do like it when... I don't like scouring every corner of the map for a 100% completion. I like when games have some sort of indication of where things may be.
Yeah, so on the map.
Yeah, or if there's maybe an upgrade you get towards the end of the game that will tell you where things are.
Yeah, like Future Seizure was just mentioning today how some of the newer Zelda games added the feature where it tells you where the hidden collectibles are. Which I think is a good feature when it's like, okay, the reward for getting, say, like 75% of the collectible is something that tells you where the rest of the collectibles are.
Yeah, that kind of thing is good. I was actually talking about that with the Batbarian developers like yesterday.
Oh, you decided to go on and talk to them?
Yeah, I've been around in the Discord. They're very nice. Shout out to Batbarian. It's a great game.
Yeah. Good development too.
Anyways.
Do you think Barbarian's one of the closest games to being like La-Mulana?
Not even close.
Okay.
What kind of question is that?
I mean, okay, what game's closer then?
Okay,
What
so
game is closest to La-Mulana?
I'm going to say this. Barbarian is the La-Mulana of spatial reasoning puzzles. Like, La-Mulana is riddle focused, whereas Barbarian is definitely spatial reasoning puzzle focused.
I don't agree.
And I think that you're going to have the issue where people are going to be in the niche or they're not going to be in the niche. And what Barbarian's main sticking point, I think, is going to be is that it requires you to multitask.
Okay.
In order
Riddles
to
are
execute
just
puzzles,
kind
yeah.
of niche because, I mean, they're just not terribly common. But block puzzles are common, so they're just skills most gamers have because everyone's had to do block puzzles before. Or throwing puzzles.
I was about to say, I think that the big thing that sets Barbarian apart is the fact that it is block pushing puzzles, but you have to kind of juggle two different characters at once in order to solve them.
There were a couple of puzzles in Barbarian, usually involving the immortals, that were incredibly annoying.
Yeah, the immortals, and then you had those dumb bat things that kind of flew towards you, and you kind of had to manipulate where they were sitting. The ones that ran away from the different light sources.
Yeah, and it's just the problem is that it's kind of inconsistent, and when you execute it, I guess it's not actually inconsistent, but the execution is weird, you may say. Anyways,
well, it's like what I
what are we
say.
talking about?
It's like what I say when you throw your fruit, you can aim in 360 degrees, which means that you have 359 ways you can miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you guys think about issues of execution when doing puzzles?
I don't think it's any different than fighting a boss and having to execute your abilities in the right way. Like, let's, for instance, take Goma as an example. Same says get good. Technically, there's a puzzle there. You have to figure out that you have to shoot it in the eye, even though, you know, that's one of those what is art questions. But technically there is a puzzle there, and there's also execution there. You have to actually be able to hit the monster in the eye in order to solve it.
I mean, execution of puzzles is a technical challenge. I don't think it's
not part of the puzzle.
Really part of the puzzle solving process, but it is skill.
I'm looking for a key so I can get to that one room that I haven't been in, which probably has nothing in it and we're wasting our time, but right now I have nowhere else to go, so...
So Melphis said that it needs to be clear that you failed due to execution and not failure to solve the puzzle.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, so one of the problems is when it's not clear whether it's an execution problem or a solution problem.
And I think that's a fantastic point. And I think Barbarian does a good job with this, and the reason why I say that is because, it just occurred to me that I pushed the block down. I'll come back over here later. It's pretty obvious that you messed up, or that you're messing up because you're missing where you threw your fruit. But I think the other thing that Barbarian does to kind of help its situation, and this is kind of going back to the La-Mulana, you can teleport at any time, which kind of takes the sting off of some of the what would otherwise be punishing or take a long time and make it very tedious. Barbarian's puzzles are usually confined to a single screen. And so
Yeah, with throwing fruit, also you have infinite fruit to throw, and while your other things to throw are limited, you throw every item the same way. So you can gauge distances just by throwing a fruit. And of course you can just spam fruit as fast as you want if you're trying to find the right angle for something.
yeah, I've done that before. Let's see. You have a key in this room? Nope.
Oh yeah, anyway, so yeah, Barbarian has an upgrade that doesn't tell you where things are, but when you're in the same room as a treasure, it will give you an indication of that treasure, and that's when you've gotten 80% of the gems.
I don't remember shooting any of these things in the eye actually does anything. Oh, it was this guy. And we already did that.
Yeah, something like that, definitely. I think it's better when it's on the higher end because it's before the point where you're scouring every last room to find every little secret you may have missed. But it is at the point where you have to have been spending time looking for secrets. And you have, collecting the majority of them, more than the majority of them, 80% of them. It requires commitment to collecting everything. Not just like you reach the end of the game and it just tells you where everything is and you have to go around and mop it up. You still have to make the effort to find 80% of the secrets without any help.
I think I already told you this, but when I got to the end of Barbarian, I put a marker on every single screen of the map and then just went through the entire game and checked off every screen after I got that thing that gives you the sound effect.
Sounds really tedious.
You can get through the game pretty fast. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly... I don't know. I discovered a lot of things, so I didn't really find it tedious. Okay, well, where in the heck is this key? Speaking of marking every room and checking them off, I kind of wish I could do that right now. This key could be literally anywhere because in A Link to the Past, they could be underneath pots and... Okay, I'm thinking of one place that I haven't been yet. I think I can get there this way.
Well, the keys are shared between dungeons, so because you've been going back and forth,
No,
maybe use the key from the...
That is the original Zelda. It does not work that way in this game, I don't think.
Oh.
Maybe the key is behind the key, and you had to have used one of the other keys to get the key.
What was this way? Okay, yeah, this is where I think I'm... This is where I was trying to go. I'm 90% positive I haven't missed any... No, I've already been here. Okay. Well, you think this seed is cursed? I got a seed where I got the speed boost early on, and the only way I could think of where I could progress, I had to do this crazy spark shine thing. And if you think I'm bad at bomb jumping, you should see my spark shining skills.
How often do you play these randomizers?
This would be the first time I've gotten this far. But I've started over a couple of times just for fun. Like, my kids are like, we want to watch Metroid. And I'm like, well, I don't want to play normal Metroid. Might as well play the randomizer Metroid. And then they usually get bored after like 15 minutes. Okay, I'm at a loss. I don't know where this key is. I don't think I can get through that door. Oh, I'm stuck here. Anyway. But the point of this isn't to try and beat it. The point of this is to have something to talk over.
We're very good at it.
But if we wanted that, we could just watch you fight that green light boss.
Yeah, we could do that too. You rather than do that? I think clearly Master is more entertained by this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That boss. Did we already talk about whether or not that was good design or bad design?
I believe we did while you were doing it.
I think the core.
Well, what?
The Gleam Light boss that took me 40 minutes that I didn't actually beat. I actually don't think it took me that long. It was probably like 15 minutes before we all got fed up with it. Everybody knows that I've spent longer than that on a boss on a stream.
So you built up the frustration but didn't get the release.
Yeah, that's why I want to go back and try it again. Need my release, man. I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night tonight. That stupid boss!
You give Gleamlight more attention than it deserves.
So some.
I don't know, that's hard to say.
You like every game.
That's not true.
You will look for like the smallest good thing in a game, and you're like, oh, 3 out of 5.
I would not give, based on what I played. Now here's the thing: I haven't beat Gleamlight yet, so I can't say for sure what score I would give it. But it probably would not get a 3 out of 5 based on what we played. Oh man, Sasame says that sometimes I don't go to sleep until I beat that boss until I beat that boss. I stayed up till like 3 a.m. playing Beautiful Joe when that came out on the final boss, because it kept feeling like every boss was the final boss. Like I had like 7 final bosses. I'm like, no, I want to beat this tonight.
When I feel like I'm rushing to beat a game, and then I realize the game isn't ending when I thought it was going to end.
Right.
And then it's like sunk cost. I've already stayed up to get to the end of this game, and I didn't get to the end of it. How long do I keep going before I give up? So it's just better not to make those decisions. Don't try to beat a game in the first place. Let it come naturally.
I started like, when I feel like the boss I'm about to fight is the last boss, I immediately take a break.
That's probably a good plan.
But when I played Monster Boy, I got to that point and then I like kind of got sidetracked by something and didn't go back to it until like months later. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I still have this game to finish.
This plan isn't working. Okay.
I started playing Okami. I played the first few hours and I haven't played it since.
Okami is a slow burn game as well, in my opinion.
That was kind of a non sequitur, I'm sorry.
Dope. Okay. It's kind of a slow game. I feel like we've already been up this area. Maybe one of these things is a key. I just haven't grabbed both the pots. No. Where's that key? It could be one of those situations where you have to kill all the enemies in the room. Have we entered any rooms where I haven't cleared all the enemies? Maybe this one? Literally the room with the key? Okay, no.
Maybe the door's not actually locked.
Come on. Alright, well, I think I'm done with this dungeon.
Maybe you have to light all the torches.
We'll come back. Yeah, maybe. Let's try and find out. Let's do that. Darn you! Okay, there we go. Alright, nothing happened. Alright, well, we've milked that dungeon enough. Let's go somewhere else.
But yeah, Phoenotopia is coming out tomorrow on Steam.
Tomorrow, yeah. And a lot of people have gotten keys already.
Wow.
Yeah, that's another game that I need to go back to.
Let's check
Excited to
this
play it. I'm not sure if I'll play it right away though.
Yeah, Ender Lilies, it hits early access tomorrow. Not technically out, but... that one that I'm going to be taking a look at. I usually don't do early access unless I get a key from the dev, in that case I did.
Need to finish all these games before East 9 comes out next month.
Gonna finish everything for Silk Song on the 14th.
Okay, there's a room to the right that I have not entered. It looks like I don't own the map on this level. Yeah, I'm sorry, Silver, and I didn't answer your question. And yes, I did. We did get the item from the witch. I know that was like a cliffhanger from like a couple of weeks ago. What was the witch going to give? And by the way, the witch never stopped saying I'm still brewing it. So...
Yeah.
Okay, just to get a little litmus test of, oh great, it's another locked door.
But you have a key.
Desert Palace apparently has 2 treasures. There's no way I haven't gotten both of them already. I do have a key?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
good. Chances are, I've already gotten these treasures. Well, one of the treasures is going to be the map, and one's going to be the compass. Hopefully that's not all that's in here. Like, I'm gonna bet this is the map. That's what I'm gonna go for on this one.
So something interesting. Phoenotopia on the Switch has a 72 Metacritic score. Or 72 Metacritic Metascore.
Yeah, it's because it's a hard game, and people didn't like it being so hard.
Well, they also did a lot of updates afterwards, so the reviews are probably for the initial version of the game.
Literally, it was the compass and the map. Alright, let's look at the map. Is there anything else that we missed? Okay, well, at least we got that checked off. Oh, there's an upper floor. Alright, yeah, I think we're done with this place.
Hey, as long as you find at least one upgrade per stream, eventually we'll get to the end.
Okay, so I did find a game-breaking bug when I played Phoenotopia, but I've also found game-breaking bugs in both Iconoclast and Hollow Knight. I know I always bring up those 2 games when I say that. I don't think it was because of game-breaking bugs. I think it's literally because the game is different from other games and is more difficult as a result. Five-star difficulty. Are you talking about Phoenotopia for the Solid 8, or... Sorry, I might be a little confused. Okay, so where else would I be trying Phoenotopia? I don't remember any stars in the difficulty, but either way. I didn't think it was that hard, but I also play a lot of these games, so I knew when I was playing it that it would be difficult for the majority audience that would be playing the game. And it has a lot of elements that it's easy to blame the game for the difficulty. How are you doing on that now? On Phoenotopia. I haven't heard you talking about that recently.
Does Phoenotopia have fishing?
It does.
Wasn't sure if that was just like something in a dream I saw.
You wouldn't
Pretty sure
have
it shows it in the trailer.
Yeah, I know. I've only watched the trailer once. I don't like watching trailers multiple times.
Well, because Phoenotopia is a slow burn game, it is really easy to be distracted from it if you let yourself be distracted from it.
Hey, don't spoil that you have to fish.
You don't actually have to fish. I only fish because there are, I mean, there's side quests that you need to fish for, but there's no main quest things. The main reason why I fish is because it was a really easy way to make money. Okay, it looks like we've covered this dungeon. How many treasures are in this dungeon? What is this dungeon's name? It doesn't say right here.
Most people like the Twilight Princess fishing, right?
Tower of Hera has 2 treasures. There's probably no way.
At the very least, Twilight Princess fishing is more detailed than most other fishing minigames.
Zelda always seems to have pretty good fishing.
What other Zelda games have fishing?
Ocarina of Time, Link's Awakening.
I actually kind of like the fishing in Link's Awakening.
Yeah, no, I liked it when I was a kid. It's actually, no, it's not really how Phoenotopia's works. Yeah. I don't know, for some reason programmers seem to like making fishing games.
I guess they think it's a like relaxing thing to do.
Something
I mean, maybe they themselves find the fishing game relaxing and they're making it so that they have something to do while they're testing the game.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that get added to games because of that. Programmer got bored, added to game. Oh gosh, I think we've gotten all of the treasures in this area. Okay, so according to the map, in the Dark World, in this top right section, there are 4 treasures. This one is going to be in the Catfish Super Bunny Cave. What? Hookshot Bonk Chest. What does that mean? Okay, so there are 2 treasures in this cave, and I think I got both of them. I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah, they were both off to the left.
Yeah. So I think those are the only 2 treasures with the hook shot. So the last thing is the Super Bunny Cave. I'm going to see if I can face tank that. So
Oh, the one where you're supposed to have the like cape or the other staff.
Yeah, I don't know why they're calling it the Super Bunny Cave on the guide, but I'm just going to save state so I don't have to wander around to get back. It's a time saver. In case I mess this up. I think I just messed it up.
Well, you just load the save state.
Yeah. Like, I remember there's a room with a whole bunch of spikes. Oh, yes. And then there's, like, you have to use... I think I remember this now.
So what makes a game relaxing?
Music.
Does the game have to be predictable?
Maybe I'm doing this wrong. I don't think so.
It either needs to be predictable or slow.
Yeah.
Although I don't really play games to relax, so
I sometimes find Dark Souls 1 relaxing. This is probably because I know most of the layouts and enemies usually behave pretty predictably.
Right. Yeah, I'll play Dark Souls 2 if I need a break from, like, Rain World or whatever.
Brain World is not predictable.
No. No, I don't even. I think you can play that game for 100 hours and still have issues with predictability. Okay, I feel like we've been through all this before.
I wonder if people find that game relaxing.
Brain World? I doubt it.
There's got to be someone.
So do you think a game is relaxing if it just like feels like home to you or something like that?
Maybe.
You think it's nostalgia that's causing the relaxation feeling?
Not necessarily nostalgia as much as familiarity.
Let's see, there's a cave of spikes, but maybe it's in the light world. Look at my map again. Because I'm about to get eaten by a tyke, or what are those things? Tic-tac?
Well, I believe Q is relatively familiar with this game, considering he memorized large chunks of it back in the day.
Now,
do you feel relaxed playing this game right now?
No, I feel incredibly frustrated.
But that's because you are realizing the things of the game that you aren't familiar with.
So here's the thing. I think even back in the day when I had this game practically memorized, I did not have every treasure location memorized, and that's where the sticking point is on this. Okay, so this isn't it. Anyway, we're kind of reaching the end of our time here.
Maybe the treasure's in Metroid.
I think I've pretty much covered everything in Metroid at this point.
What Zelda items have you even found in Metroid?
It's not always like that. It is it one or the other. Or you don't find treasures for one and the other always.
Well, yeah, I'm saying, but you know, from what I've seen, you haven't found very many items from Zelda in Metroid. Just an observation.
Yeah, we found the Moon Pearl there, though. That's one example, anyway. I'm having a hard time finding that cave that has the spikes.
I guess there were lots of rupees and arrows and things. I just don't remember much memorable.
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be what you get in a lot of places in this game. Or in this randomizer. Well, that was dumb. I'm looking for the room with all the spikes, and you have to have the mallet in order to get through. I could have swore it was in this area. Maybe it... no.
Yeah, I know exactly what room you're talking about. I don't remember where it is either. I want to say it was in the Light World. Definitely. I'm not too sure.
It has to be in the Dark World because I remember the whack-a-moles being the actual moles and not pegs. Which I think is a feature of the Dark World. I like how
maybe this is... Sorry, go on.
I like how they have that dark stone there that does nothing.
Oh yeah, that is kind of suspicious for no reason.
Okay, so there's a door right there. There's two doors here, so one of these two might be it. Come on.
I like how you just dash up the ladder or stairs, whatever those are.
I think it might be one of these. What is this place?
Right, so maybe this is a good topic for a later stream, but what are some of the best games that do the light, dark world trope effectively?
I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people consider this game a classic, is because of the light, dark world thing. I think they did a good job with it in Metroid Prime 2. I can't remember, is that one of the games that you played, Master?
I never finished it, actually. It's one of the only Metroid games I haven't finished now that I think about it. And
you finished 3?
yeah, I know it's a sin to play games out of order. This was when I was younger and I had I bought all the games and I kind of switched between them for some reason. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea.
Hey, I'm the one that tells people they don't need to play the first Ori or Always.
Okay, I'm gonna check one more thing, and then we should probably call it for the week.
I've mentioned before, people need to remind me to play Metroid Prime 2 because I started playing it again recently after playing through Metroid Prime 1, but like the same thing happening and I just kind of stopped playing it for some reason.
I think it's a little difficult to try and go through all of the Metroid Prime games at once. Okay, I think this might be the cave. Sweet, this is exactly what we were looking for. Alright, we're gonna save because this is probably gonna kill us.
I don't recognize this room.
Do you still have the red potion?
I do.
Okay.
Yep, Super Skullmania is gonna be on Saturday. I don't foresee any issue with it. Okay, you can't dash. Holy cow, it does 1 heart of damage each step.
How are you supposed to go through this?
Where are my potions? There it is.
There's things that make you invincible to the spikes.
Oh.
Like 2 different items you can use.
And with that,
Oh boy.
thank you very much for watching. We will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.